You're listening to Were You Still Talking? So, yeah, let me just go ahead and start, and we can have the same conversation we were having, or something different. Hey, welcome back. This is Joel Albrecht again, and in my studio today, I have Austin Mills, or Oz, and I'm going to ask him how he got that name. He's the co-founder and host of TART, that's Terrestrial Alien Rehabilitation Transformers, or better known as the Atheist Roundtable. The Atheist Roundtable, it's on YouTube and various other platforms. He's a former Christian leader of 30 plus years, and he likes to discuss religion, faith, the possible impacts on individual lives. And I've caught a couple of episodes of TART, and they're really interesting because they're very respectful. I don't know how they get these people to come on and talk about their religion when they know they're going to be talking to atheists, but they do, and it's really it's a good show. It's very interesting. Austin, or Oz, welcome to the program.
No, thank you. First of all, thank you for the invite, and thank you for having me. And I will definitely pass along the new version of our title. You'll have to write that down for me because I definitely won't remember it. But we'll.
Okay.
I'll be sure to use that next time I intro the show. But no, thank you very much for having me. I enjoy discussing these topics.
Sure. And the first thing I'm very curious about, especially with your program, because you got a kind of a big setup there. What are you guys using? For one, I'm going to thank you because any guest who shows up with a microphone, I thank them. This is doing this on Zoom is new, and it's when people have a mic, as you know, it is so much better. It makes a big difference. So I appreciate it. What are you using? What kind of setup do you have?
Well, here in my personal studio, so I have the Blue Yeti, and I just upgraded my computer. I was on a Mac, just a MacBook. I just recently went to the what's the name of this thing again? It's the Dell Inspiron, but it's the Big Daddy. It's got all kinds of RAM and everything on there. It's got the built-in 1080p camera. And then as far as the studio, I have two overhead lights. I have the Bluetooth LED lights, so I can shift the mood in the room, if I want blue lighting, red lighting, things like that. And then as far as streaming, we actually, we only use StreamYard. I know a lot of people in the YouTube world use OBS and a couple other platforms. Let me correct myself, it's not we. So Mike, he's our director. He's our producer. And he squeezes every ounce out of StreamYard possible. So if you watch our show, a lot of people are like, man, what you guys are using like 4, 5, 6 different softwares? No, Pasta Mike is just a fucking genius when it comes to that stuff. And he has milked every ounce out of StreamYard possible. So what you see, we try to sound as good as we can, but we look super sexy because of him.
You do, actually. You guys, you look great. It's very awesome. I'm trying to hit a different camera view, and I got the wrong thing. You'll hardly anyone will see this. For the people just listening, which is most people, I'm playing around with my my Zoom camera. So it does look great, and I have tried to use OBS for doing some live streaming, and I'm a one-man show, so OBS to me has just been a total pain in the butt. It hasn't. When I used Zoom because my wife was working at home and she was using it, and I had to figure out some technical stuff, of course, because that's what I do. So when I started looking at it, I was like, well, this is probably way easier. And being able to plug the board straight in was a much easier with Zoom than it is with OBS. So I'm always like, why are people using that? I guess because it's free, but it takes a lot of tech. A whole lot of tech. So I'm going to look into StreamYard because that's very interesting. And everybody on your show looks like they have a pretty decent setup. So it looks good, sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so my next question is, how? Well, actually, let me start with the good stuff. How did you go from being a Christian leader to being an atheist? What was that journey?
Juicy question first. So I grew up. I grew up in a very I now call a very radical evangelical household and church. And when I say radical, it was what you see on TV, the Kenneth Copelands and the Rod Parsleys and the Benny Hinns. That's the atmosphere I grew up in. They were slinging oil all over the place, running around the church, speaking in tongues, people hanging from chandelier. Well, it wasn't that bad, but it was close.
Rattlesnakes?
I would have been shocked. I didn't see them personally, but I would have been shocked. So that, kind of give the groundwork. It was just crazy, So I grew up around that, and I also grew up with a lot of mental illness, mental health issues, anxiety, depression, bipolar. I'm ADD, ADHD, and I was always told that, Austin, you need to pray more, you need to pray harder, you need to have more faith. And I grew up with that, never really getting treatment, never seeing a doctor, seeing a therapist, a psychiatrist, anything like that. And that'll play a bigger part here later on. But I always like to lay that groundwork, because you take that kind of just crazy, insane atmosphere as far as the religion and the faith at home and at church, and then you overlay that with mental health, a rap sheet of mental health diagnosis like that, and you're just asking for issues, you're asking for trauma. So those things played a part. Then when I was about 14 or 15 years old, my parents divorced, and leading up to that, my dad, which for the record, I always like to say this, especially if there's going to be a podcast or it's even I'm doing a live show somewhere. My dad and I now are the best of friends. We've mended our relationship, but I grew up, my dad was abusive, physically, emotionally, psychologically. What everybody saw on the outside from our home, our family. I have a younger brother, which ironically is a pastor of about a 700-member church here in the city we live in. But
that is ironic.
What people saw from the outside, we literally had a house with a white picket fence. So it was the White House, white picket fence. Everything looked really pretty from the outside. If you happen to get a camera or a microphone inside those four walls, when nobody else could see or hear, it was a war zone. So there's a lot of things that played a part there. And meanwhile, while it's a war zone, we're still being told that God loves us and our parents loves us, and we should obey our parents because that's what's right, and so on and so forth. So when they divorced at 14 or 15, all I'd ever been told is do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. And there's never a reason why, and the one thing the two things, I have 4 biological children, 2 stepchildren, and I tell them all the time, I'm not going to teach you what to think. I'm going to tell you what to think, but I will teach you how to think and how to apply logic and be a critical thinker. And don't just accept something or buy something because somebody offered that to you or told you that it was true. Find out and make sure that it's true. So I went, most of my life just accepted me because that's what my parents and the quote unquote Christian leaders in my life told me. So about 14 or 15, when they divorced, because I was never given a good reason why I shouldn't do certain things, and with unchecked and untreated, mental diagnosis and just all the trauma, I went immediately to drugs and alcohol. And I'd say for about 9 years, had very, pretty serious addiction problems. Cocaine being the drug of choice, or the DOC, as us addicts like to call it. And I did that. I had it was about an 8-ball a day cocaine habit at my worst. So when I say there was an addiction problem, it was pretty severe. And then when I was 20, shortly after my 21st birthday, it was a week after my 21st birthday, a week before it, September 13th of 2003, I was on about a 2-week binge where I had only slept for a couple hours. I was, and just to get those couple hours of sleep a night, with all the cocaine that was in my system, I was drinking like a fifth of 151, just to get a couple hours of sleep. I was doing that for about 2 weeks, and then all my buddies took me out to this 24-hour bar where you could just drink all day, drink all night. They never closed. It just kept going. And I promised them I could drive home. And I got in the car and I fell asleep, passed out drunk at the wheel. And got T-boned by full size, like the big dump trucks, going about 70 miles an hour, and crushed me up against one of the concrete highway, walls. Crushed all my ribs on my left side, collapsed my lung, crushed my shoulder. And they say your shoulder blade is the most difficult bone to break in your body. And if you were to see the X-ray, it looks like somebody just took a pane of glass and just dropped it. The way it shattered. They thought I had brain damage, which so I have some family members now that would still say that I probably do have brain damage. I'm kidding, but they, for the longest time, they wouldn't give me pain meds because of that. So the reason I share that part of the story is I remember when I finally gained because I coded out twice. I didn't even mention that I died twice. I died twice. They had to resuscitate me, and I remember when I finally started gaining consciousness. And of course, family and friends and everything are up there, and they're telling me the only reason I'm there is because God spared my life. I still have a purpose on this earth, so on and so forth. And being young and afraid and scared, and there was moments I thought I was paralyzed because my body was in shock and I couldn't move. I said, you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. This God guy, he must want me here. So then for another, let's say 8 years or whatever, I dove all the way in, and I tried to do and find everything I could to believe. And then fast forward, I was playing drums. I did a lot of things at my brother's church. I oversaw small groups, help with youth group. I was the full-time drummer, anything and everything. I was the one that if they were going out and doing inner city ministry, I was the one speaking, and sharing my story and all that. And I remember I had one Sunday off where I didn't have to play drums, didn't have to do small groups, didn't have to do youth group. And I found myself in the, congregation, the crowd, and I'm listening to the words of the music, which I didn't get a lot of opportunity to do because I was always, you're a drummer, always worried about the twos and the fours, not really paying attention to the words, right? And I'm listening to the words and I'm like, holy shit, we say this? We're saying this? And then my brother got up.
No.
my brother got up and started preaching, and again, for the record too, my brother and I have a great relationship. He starts preaching, and I don't remember what verse it was. Now he quoted a verse and then shared whatever his takeaway was on that for that particular sermon, and I'm like, hold on a minute, you're saying that, and I know that verse says that, but this verse over here says this, and all these wheels started turning in my head. And it was like a light bulb went off. And I was like, Austin, you have never, so 34, 35 years, you have never sat down and read this book without drinking what I call the Jesus juice. You've never removed the lenses of religion, indoctrination, faith. You've never just read the book for what it is. You've just taken it on other people's word, and their interpretation and what they heard or what they felt when they read it. Literally that day it started. I went home and I got a brand new Bible. That way I didn't have my highlighter marks in there and my notes and everything. And I started all the way over. And I'll tell you what, I barely got out of Genesis. And I was already like, okay, I'm completely skeptical. What is going on? What have I been reading? What have I been believing? And then what the nail in the coffin for me is finally, I heard, I think it was Matt Dillahunty, the host of the Atheist Experience. He had an exercise. And he said, if you don't believe me, take the 4 Gospels and read them horizontally. And so what I mean by that is, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, read Matthew verse 1, then Mark verse 1, or I'm sorry, horizontally, not vertically. And I did that, and I'm like, holy shit, they don't even have their own story right. They don't even have the story, and that's the crux, right? That's the linchpin of their book is the resurrection, the crucifixion, resurrection of Jesus, and they don't even have the story right. Who lied to me for 34 years? Who's lying to me? I'm gonna kick your ass, So at that point, that's what did it. That's where, and then I was sitting in my apartment. This point, I'd just divorced my now ex-wife, and I was sitting there. I was actually listening to the Atheist Experience, and it hit me. I was like, "Holy shit, I'm an atheist! Like I don't believe this shit anymore. I can't believe this. There's no reason to believe this anymore. So that was the long-winded version, but that way you have good backstory and how I got there. That's the thick and the thin of it.
That's I appreciate that. I mean, not only the story, but you being able to share it like that. That's I mean, you're an atheist, so what difference does it make? Because it sounded like you definitely replaced the drugs with religion, immediately after your accident, and then so you kind of stayed in that addiction. It's like, I mean, people do it with exercise, people do it with food, all kinds of different things. How they just swap out one for another, and it's very interesting. It's very interesting that one day you just thought, well, this doesn't make sense. Now, I have never read the Bible, so I know very little about it. And I don't know if I'm an atheist. I'll ask you about that later. But weren't the books written like a long time at different times in history? Those four books you're talking about? Yeah. So it would be hard for them to get the story straight, right?
Yeah. And that's, once I really started, because, when you grow up and you're indoctrinated into Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
anything to do with being critical, being skeptical, and for the love of fucking everything holy and their God, don't say the word atheist, because they are the devil. They are the devil, so nobody teaches you to be critical about that book. And if you are, how dare you? How dare you? That's blasphemy, So once I started to get out of that mindset and started to use my own damn brain and started looking at not just how the text lines up and is it in context, does it make sense? When I started looking at the dates and how many hundreds of years separated each book in each testament, I'm like, this doesn't even make sense. How do you, like, billions of people believe this shit?
Well, it's interesting. I had a guest on my show a couple of shows ago who is a scholar, and she's a spiritualist. She believes in stuff before the Bible, and her research, she's researched writings that were around before the Bible and what they kind of stole the Bible from. And her conclusion was that, and I've felt this for myself, was that the Bible was really written to control people. It wasn't, really written to help people. It was written to control the masses, and that, that makes sense to me. But you have read more of it. Doesn't that make a lot of sense, that a lot of it is about control?
Absolutely. And who was I just talking about the other day? But I'm trying to get more people to think about this, especially people that are in the faith or are in a process of a deconversion, as we call it. The word faith, as it's used biblically, and in that text, that word is the greatest con job ever designed for humanity. So think about this. In the Bible, Hebrews 11:1 says that faith is a substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. What the fuck does that mean? What are you even talking about? So we're hoping for something, and this is the evidence of it, even though we don't see the evidence of what we're wanting to believe in. Is that what you just told me? But people just breeze right through that when the Bible just told you you're believing in nothing. You don't even have evidence to believe in what you're believing in. So that word faith, I hate that word. I hate it because of what it does to people, that they will just blindly listen and follow. I mean, look how many people follow like a Kenneth Copeland, that literally believes that he can breathe on COVID and kill it. Well, guess what? 8 months or 5 months later, it's still here, Kenny.
Well, it's true. And now it's turning into the big conspiracy theory group, which I'm not even going to mention the name of, but I think you know who I'm talking about. That is getting huge based on people just believing blindly that what they're saying is true. And I think that's a big problem with the whole social media world now, is that anyone, any moron can get a microphone and a computer and set up a podcast and start putting out stuff, and you don't need any evidence. Like, I could be sitting here saying all kinds of stuff. And if I had enough followers, it's not based on fact now. It's based on followers. I was just listening to another podcast about this too, some very one of the biggest podcasts in the Tim Ferriss was, I forgot his guess. I should have wrote it down, but he was talking about that. Is now things are based on popularity. They're not based on facts. People more and more are basing things on popularity, which is a big part of I think how the Bible got so big. Faith is. It's used differently by different people. I looked up the word before this, but it is basically believing in something blindly. Some faith can be good. I mean, you have the faith that you're going to wake up the next morning, and so you prepare for the next day. That's actually faith as well, because there's no proof. There's no real evidence you'll wake up tomorrow. Lots of people don't. I mean, there's thousands of people, because we have so many people on the earth. There's thousands every day that don't wake up the next day. But we have faith that we're going to wake up. But that's kind of different in faith of something that is completely unprovable. But in all honesty, I believe in things that are unprovable as well. I'm not religious. So by some accounts, I'm an atheist, but I still believe in things beyond what we can see and feel and touch. And I believe that there's a creator, but it's not like the Bible. In other words, there's an intelligence to the universe. That's more, I guess that's the simplest way that I can put it. And even from what I understand, that's what Einstein was trying to prove. But Einstein was religious, so that's a strange conundrum there.
Yes.
Everything he was.
One of my favorite words, conundrum. I love that word.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them when you're talking about faith. And the strangest thing to me is that I think it was a year ago, but it may have been more than that. I read there was a survey put out by one of these probably left-wing conspiracy theory magazines, like the New York Times or something, that the most feared people in America were atheists, and this just kind of blew my mind. That atheists were feared more than Muslims, and I know Muslims are extremely, especially now, they are very much feared by. They're used as a scapegoat a lot, but for some reason, atheists are feared. This was strictly Americans, not worldwide. And it's such a small group, and it just seemed really weird to me. It seemed bizarre.
And here's why. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I've guys in our group have literally received death threats.
I was going to ask you. So now I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask you about that as well. If you've gotten, I assumed you got negative feedback because you're on YouTube. So I get negative feedback with flight simulator videos. So sure you'll get it with the
You did not simulate correctly.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, we've literally had Christians and Muslims threaten to find us, locate us, find our homes, kill us, kill our families, harm us, harm our families. The one that's the most recent, I guess it's sticking out in my head. I had a guy that on Facebook, he private messaged me and said that he was going to pray that I just recently got remarried in September, and he said he was going to pray that God took the beautiful woman out of my life and took all my kids out of my life and put me in the darkest place I've ever been. That way I would come to know the light, which was Jesus Christ. And I just replied back, "Thank you. I love you too."
That's such a sweet reply. And I mean, when I hear something like that, I just go, Jesus Christ. And
absolutely.
I'm really sorry you got that. And also I want to say congratulations on your new marriage.
Thank you.
But the question that popped into my mind was what were your marriage vows? What were your marriage vows?
They were atheists as hell.
I mean,
what? We took time and we went down to Indianapolis. We live in Indiana. We went down to downtown Indy to do everything. And when we did our vows, we actually just went to. We like going to parks and just hanging out, peaceful, quiet, just us. So we found a park there, and we did it there, and just shared some memories with each other, and then we told each other to have 5 promises for each other, that we would do our best to keep the rest of our lives. It was amazing on a cute mushy moment when we went through the memories and then the 5 promises. 4 out of the 5 were the exact same promises to each other, and just all but I think 1 memory were the same memories that stuck out for both of us. So it really was beautiful. It was an awesome time. So we did that. We eloped, and then we're going to actually have our official wedding in May 28th.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really nice. My wife and I have been together for a long, long time, but we just got married, and we had to have a COVID wedding because, for reasons of retirement, partly, it was better if we got married, and so we had to get married by a certain timeline, and it was at the very beginning of COVID, and that was just bizarre, really, really strange. But yeah. So how did did TART get started? Was that already going and you became a part of it, or did you help start that? How did that all get started?
Oh, it's a fun story. So I, right at the end of my divorce, so what, 2 years ago, right around there, I might be off a little bit, but I was just trying to find something when I got off work. I work about 60 hours a day, or a day, about 60 hours a week. And when I got home, I was just trying to find something to help myself just not think about work life, to just laugh and have fun. And one of my buddies had told me about a couple of comedy accounts that they watched on TikTok. I was like, all right, well, it's free. I'll get it and go check them out. Well, when I was scrolling through, and this is about the time that I had deconverted and walked away from faith, all that happened, my divorce and all that happened right within the same 3 to 6 months of each other. And I'm scrolling through, and I find an account, and at the time, it was called Mike's Ministry, and it was satirical atheist content, and I was dying. Like the guy had me like in stitches, and so I'd comment on his videos. Well, eventually we, for whatever reason, had messaged each other, and we started talking, and then Jeff, Steve, and then we call him Atheist Jesus. His name's Mike as well. He's now went on and started his own show. But we all met on TikTok, and we would make videos and kind of take jabs at each other, but also take jabs at faith and Christianity and all that. And then Pasta Mike, we call him, because at the time we had two mics, and he needed a nickname, and so instead of Pastor Mike, to play off the flying spaghetti monster thing, it was Pasta Mike. So Pasta Mike put a Skype call together, and was like, hey, let's just get on there, chop it up, talk shit, have fun. And him and I, so I'm a business guy, outside of the YouTube world. I've owned a couple of my own businesses. He owns his own business, and we're on there, and we're like, is it me, or do I think we have something here? Like we all gel, we all fit. Let's try it. I mean, what's the price in trying? And if you go back, we still have our original video up that we did. And if you look at the progression and how far we've come, it's amazing, and our continuity and everything there. And I will say that there's 5 of us currently. We are like 5 brothers. We fight like brothers. We cuss each other out like brothers. But don't you dare cross one of us, because we're brothers. And
Right,
so it's
right.
really, really cool that we've built that. We built that community. Because the one thing, going back to what you said earlier, a lot of people don't realize when you are vocal about not believing, especially here in the States, the Christian God, you will pay the price verbally, insults, threats, whatever. So to kind of have those 5 bros to go back to, like, man, this dude, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, you really said that to me, and have that community, that I guess brotherhood to go to is fantastic.
Yeah, it's It's awesome that it works that way, and that you guys were able. You found each other on TikTok of all things.
Right.
You're gonna be broke up by
Five,
China soon. It's so.
five,
But
five grown-ass men found each other on TikTok.
yeah, that's true. It's the new way. It's the way of the world. And so your Pasta Mike does all the engineering for it. He's the engineer guru, and
Yep, he's the brains in the operation, and he makes us all look good. And I can't say it enough. Because Pasta not only is he the producer and director, and he hates when I brag about him. He's a very humble guy. Not only that, he's become my best friend. Him and I talk on a daily basis. We live in 2 different states, but whether it's mental health issues or I see a therapist once a week. I still go through a lot of the trauma from coming out of religion and abuse and everything. Other than my wife, he's the first person I call. Like if I'm having a shitty day, I'm like, bro, I just need to blow off some steam. He's the first one. So I'm very grateful, not just for the show, but Pasta, he's the man.
Well, it's really awesome to have a friend like that. That's definitely helps a lot. Yeah, there was 2 questions I wanted to ask you, so I'll ask them together. One, you're in therapy. Did you do any replacement drugs for your mental health? Like, do you have a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and how? I think watching the show, I'm really impressed with how how you allow people to talk about their stuff, and you don't really get in there. You're very allowing with people. So I'm curious how you were able to still stay with a relationship with your dad and your brother.
Mm-hmm.
They understand what you're doing now, or do they try
Absolutely.
and convert you? Yeah, they're okay. They're good with it. Good.
Yeah. Well, I'll say they're accepting. I won't say they're good with it, but they know that they're not at this point in the ballgame. They're not going to change my mind, so there's no point in having contention.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to answer your question, well, the first one with therapy and everything, yes to all of the above. Therapist, psychiatrist, and it took me years. So for anybody listening in the future, if you struggle with any type of mental health and you are a skeptic or you atheist, do yourself a favor. Do not go to a Christian therapist. It's just going to make it worse. I'm not saying that just because they're Christian, but they don't get down to the nitty gritty. They don't get down to the actual core issues, which are either a chemical imbalance or, this part of your brain doesn't fire the way it should, or, whatever it is. Go to somebody that's actually going to get down to the brass tacks. Then if you want to overlay that with faith, by all means, do what you got to do. But first get to the core of the issue. So it took me years. I found an excellent secular therapist and psychiatrist where I don't have to worry about faith coming into it or prayer or anything like that. We're just talking about Austin's brain. That's all we're doing, in my behaviors. So yes, I do have that. As far as replacement drugs, recreationally, no. I can't stand marijuana, and that's for me. Like I think everybody should. I think we should legalize everything. I think it was in Portugal or whatever, they legalized everything, and crime rates went down, addictions went down, suicides went down. So for the record, do you? That's just not for me.
No, I meant for your mental health, like prescriptions.
Yes, absolutely, and that changed my life. It was right before my ex-wife started the process. I went into a really, really nasty bipolar manic episode, and it lasted about 6 months. And I was sleeping 2 hours a day, working 60 hours a week, being a husband, and a father of 4. I was in the gym 7 days a week. And I got shredded, but
yeah, I bet.
I was just, but just completely unhealthy, as far as my mental state. Next thing I know, I'm in a psych ward, and I ran myself so thin, just emotionally and psychologically and physically, that I snapped. I didn't hurt anybody or hurt myself. I just lost it. I was crying for 2 days. I was just bawling and weeping for no reason, and I found myself in a psych ward. And it was when I was there and actually started to be able to talk to people that understood what was going on. And I'm like, holy shit, these people get it. And it was like, get me out of here, to where I absorbed everything I could in the 4 or 5 days I was there, because that was the first time I'd heard anybody actually try to help me, and anybody try to do this. So they got me, and I'm one of the fortunate ones where the first 2 or 3 meds that they put me on, that the cocktail, I guess, that they gave me of meds worked like boom. A lot of people it takes them a couple of years to find that right mix of medication.
Yeah.
Mine, the first ones that they put me on, within a week, I was like, oh my God, this is what the world looks like. This is awesome. Because everything before that was just foggy and dark all the time. So to all that, yes, therapist, medication, I believe in all that. And then as far as relationship with my family, they are all. I'm the only atheist, skeptic, whatever in our family. I come from a line of pastors and ministers, and my mom was a music pastor for 20-something years. So like I said a minute ago, they don't accept it, but they know where I'm at. They know about the YouTube channel. And actually, my brother, the pastor, he was on our show, I want to say 3 weeks ago. He came on our show with another pastor friend of his that we've known for 20 years. And then I had 2 former pastors that are now atheists on. And the topic was mental health and how it impacts people in full-time ministry, because there's a rise now in the suicide rates within the pastor community, community of ministers or leaders. So we had that was an awesome show. So they very much know, like I said, where I'm at, and what I love about it is we can have that conversation because I don't let it get heated. A lot of atheists don't know how to control their temper, and they get as soon as they think somebody's talking to them a certain kind of way or telling them that they're dumb for not believing, they just get triggered.
Right. Well, that's what I really appreciate about the show. Not that I've watched hours and hours of it, but I watched enough of it to know that, one, you all seem to really respect your guests, even though I see you making fun of them in front of their back. but you still have a lot of respect for the people you're talking to. I think it's a very strange idea, because it seems like, to me, what it seems like is, well, we're having people who are deep believers in religion on our show to prove that religion isn't real. that's what the overall jest seems to be, even though it should be about aliens. But it's just very interesting. I really appreciate that you guys give people a lot of leeway, and you don't really come after them. I mean, it's why I don't talk politics on my show. It rolls into it sometimes, but mostly I'm only interested in talking about my politics. And I do get triggered when I talk about politics, even though I know deep down it's not as important as everyone's making it seem. Like politics are being blown up right now, and they have been in other parts of history. We forget, but it's turning into such a battle between tribes. And even when we're all in the same tribe right now, it's like there's no. I mean, the internet should be proof of that. We're all on the same. It's the same place we all live on.
Mm-hmm.
It gets smaller every day. So it's interesting. But I think you guys do a really good job of having those conversations and not having it about people yelling at each other, because they're so. I could see how it could just turn into people, screaming about their beliefs really easily, but you guys do a great job of just letting them talk and asking them questions that, and you even talked about it on the show once, about asking questions that aren't leading, and questions where you're just trying to find the answers.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. It still is mind-boggling to me that you have a show about that you can get these people. How do you get these people on the show? Besides being your brother.
Yeah. Now we have I definitely use our track record,
Mm-hmm.
with our guests, and I'll even have, depending on who I'm, trying to schedule or recruit, I guess, to come on. There's certain guests I'll ask for, kind of like testimonials, or, I guess, a review of their experience on the show. That way the other theists or Christians, whatever, religion or whatever, that they claim they have a reference that it's not just the atheist saying, "Hey, come on here, we're going to take good care of you." It's another Christian saying, yeah, they can be sarcastic and funny, but it's all in good humor. But they are respectful. That they're not going to get on there and try to humiliate you. They do want to have a real conversation with you. And at the bottom of our show when we do our outro, it says that truth does not fear investigation. So if you have a truth claim, you shouldn't have to fear coming on and us investigating. Now, the moment we start to try to humiliate or embarrass somebody, then I wouldn't come on the show either. So,
right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think that definitely shows up on the show, and it's really good. It's really great that way. So yeah, actually, I did want to ask you this question. I'm looking at your questions. For those who don't know, people send their own questions into podcasts or any interview they're on. In case you ever wondered about that, when you see
feel free to ask me anything. Sorry.
So, atheism, what is it? Let's just get down to the basics. To you, what's atheism?
I go by as close to the definition as possible. So first and foremost, atheism is simply a lack of belief in a God or a supernatural claim. Now, Christians specifically have had now because they're great at what we call word salad, and they want to well, if you don't believe this, that means you believe this, and if you do that, that means you have faith. And no, that doesn't mean any of that. I don't believe that I don't believe. I know that I don't believe. So it's not a belief. I don't need faith. So now what we've had to do is add another layer onto it. And what the guys on our show, what we, I guess, call ourselves now is an agnostic atheist, where we don't believe, we don't claim that there's absolutely no God, because that would be completely dishonest, because we don't absolutely know that there is no God. We just don't find good enough evidence to support a God claim. So until there's evidence that supports that, we take the agnostic approach, where we don't know.
Oh, okay. And that's always been confusing to me too. The difference between agnostic and atheist, because I'm basically agnostic, I guess, but I have been accused of being atheist because I don't believe in a religion, right? Because I don't follow a specific religious path. And some people consider that atheism, but it's, I guess if you're Christian or Muslim or following Judaism, then that might be atheist to you. If you don't believe in the God they believe in, then maybe that means you're atheist. But yeah, it's interesting. So,
yeah, and you could be like, I would consider myself a hard atheist on the Abrahamic God, so like the Bible God. I do not believe that thing exists whatsoever. But I am not an atheist to any other God, hard atheist to any other God claim. I'd be agnostic. I don't know. But just knowing that book as well as I know it, and the lack of evidence behind it, I would consider myself 99.9% a hard atheist on the Abrahamic God. But that doesn't eliminate any other gods. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. The people I believe in, I guess, the spiritual leaders that I listen to, especially one minister in particular, is all about how all of those religions are based on, they really come from the same place a long, long time ago, and they're trying to explain the same thing, but in my opinion, in some cases, do a terrible job about it, because anytime you are trying to control people and tell people that if they don't believe what you believe, then they're going to die or go to a bad place, that seems pretty messed up to me. That it's like, and I've always thought, well, if you have to force your religion on somebody, if your religion is based on fear, if your belief in God is based on fear, there's something really wrong with that. I've never been able to come near, to get around that.
Yeah, and the Abrahamic God, whether it be Christianity or I've been studying more and more over the last 6 to 8 months on the Quran and Islam. that Abrahamic God he's nasty, man. And especially if you look at the Bible, the Old Testament, he's a bloodthirsty, warmongering, baby killing, genocidal maniac. He's a narcissistic maniac, and you don't see it. Especially if you grew up a Christian, you don't see it until you're not drunk on the Jesus juice anymore, or
Right.
and you're not intoxicated by that indoctrination anymore. Because like I was just talking to my mom yesterday about abortion. I'm like, well, Mom, how can you even attempt to morally ground your stance that it's pro-life no matter what, when the God of your Bible in I think it's First Samuel, God commanded a soldier in an army to dash children's heads on stones and kill them, and then rip open the wombs of mothers and take out the babies and kill the babies. How do you ground that?
You
And
know
it's
what's
crickets.
what's great about those stories though is they make for some awesome movies. Holly- Hollywood has really had a good time with some of the really nasty stories of the Bible, and one of Kevin Smith's best movies ever
Yeah,
was based on biblical writings. I just think it's really interesting. Hollywood eats that stuff up
absolutely, as they should.
as they should, because it's true. Most people ignore those parts. Most people really, don't want to talk about the really nasty parts. But there's even television series now that have the devil in them, and
Hmm.
they definitely refer to how the angels are not very nice in the Bible. They do some really nasty stuff, and so yeah, it makes great stories for Hollywood. I always appreciate
Yep.
that.
Yeah. It's they absolutely do. I mean, some of them are like the funny ones for atheists. Kind of the go-tos are in Genesis, in the story in the Garden of Adam and Eve, which is where I tripped and fell. When I started reading it for myself the first time, I literally had my head in my palm because I got through the first two chapters. I'm like, we have fucking talking snakes. We have talking snakes. Is this a kid's book? What are we doing right now? You know, um, so you have that, but then you have the more serious things, because then you just get to the second book, Exodus, and by the time you get to the 21st chapter, literally God is giving commands on being a good slave owner and how you should treat your slaves, and that you can beat your slaves to a bloody pulp, and as long as they don't die within, is it 3 or 4 days, or whatever, then you're a great slave owner. What?
Well, that's an interesting fact. It's an interesting thing you say there, because that's where we are. That's how we got where we are. That's how the countries in the Christian universe, and England and America, especially most of Europe and America, that's how we got to the place we are at right now. I mean, the whole idea of racism is something that comes from the Bible, and it's something that they've used. I mean, it's not necessarily correct, but they have used the Bible for racism forever, and they are still
Absolutely.
doing it. I mean, the radical KKK they take all their stuff supposedly from the Bible, but not only is it a misinterpretation, but it's how the Bible's been used since it was written. I mean, in the early 1000s, the Bible was an excuse to wipe out everyone else on the planet who wasn't a king or queen. And the ones, that survived, they're going to be a soldier, or they're going to work for you in the fields. And, that's been the Christian doctrine for a long, long
Absolutely.
time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
And I don't know if it still does, because I haven't looked recently, but when I started doing some uh, slave culture studies, a year or two ago, and I was looking at different websites. And I don't want to say, because I don't know it to be fact right now, but the last time that I looked at the officially unofficial KKK website, they claim to be a religious organization, a Christian organization. If that tells you anything. Since then, I don't know if they've taken that off or whatever. But at one point, they definitely did that. But if I'm gonna do a shameless plug for a buddy of mine, um, uh, he has his doctorate in theology, and then it's Hebrew text, something like that. He has a book, and for those that don't watch or listening, it's called "Did the Old Testament Endorse Slavery?" Dr. Josh Bowen, good friend of mine. He's been on our show several times. Very, very smart guy. And if you're into that kind of thing, and we want to know more about the history and how, what you just said a minute ago about it, it having its roots in the good book, quote unquote, you can get the actual information right there. He goes in depth, and Josh does a great job of making this very readable and enjoyable for those that aren't a expert or a professional in this world. So
That's awesome. I appreciate putting your friend's book up there, and I will get a link from you so that we can put that in the show notes. So that will be in the show notes, everyone. And I mean, as far as I know, the KKK is still a religious group. Nazism was based on the Catholic religion.
Catholics,
yeah, they were based on, and the Catholics backed them. The Catholic Church backed the German Nazis because they thought they would win. So they wanted to back the winner. And so, they gave them money to fight their war. So, that I don't think that bodes well for the Catholic Church personally. And I really am shocked at how many people still follow that blindly, knowing that. But people are following a leader now that seems to have the same idea. And it's I think it's kind of a sad I think it's a sad state in our country that anyone who wants to be a leader, obviously we need leaders, according to a really good book called Sapiens. You do need leaders with this many people. It sure helps. But anyone who wants to be a leader, especially in federal politics, but even in local politics, has to claim religion. Because I don't believe they're necessarily follow religions, a lot, but they have to claim they do. They absolutely have to. And if they claim the wrong religion, that's going to be a big problem. And it's, according to our Constitution, they should be atheists, wouldn't you say?
And this is the one part of politics that I will talk about freely, because this comes down to my Second Amendment rights. So for the record, I actually catch a lot of heat from, when it comes to this, I catch a lot of heat from the atheists and the Christians on this, because I will not pick a side. Mm-hmm. I refuse to be a part of the two-party program. I think it's bullshit, and I will not subscribe to it. I consider myself, if this is even a thing, but I consider myself to be a constitutionalist. I want you, your family, your people, your friends, mine, everybody. I don't care what you believe in, don't believe in, what the color of your skin is, what your sexual preferences are, or lifestyles are. I don't care. I just want you to have your constitutional rights. That being said, I or you or nobody should have to pledge allegiance to a god or a religion in order to be a leader in our country. Our founding fathers, the Christians, love to claim that they were all but one or two Christians. Go do your homework, folks. Go do your homework. They were not Christians. Some of them were deists, mm-hmm. but most of them were skeptics. Like they did not claim a god. They did not claim a religion. So quit lying to people so that you can further your agenda for your religion and to control people with your religion, and let people think freely. Again, this country and the world, but this country would be so much better if we could get to a place where we think critically and we accept nothing based on word. Give us evidence, give us supporting data, documentation, and quit buying stuff just because somebody on that TV screen told you. And this goes back, you made a great point earlier, whereas, popularity is now the convincing factor. Popularity is now the proof. That in itself is fallacious. If we were having an actual formatted debate, that would be, an argument to popularity, which is a fallacy. Like, that's bullshit. I don't care how many followers you have. That's a fallacious argument. I want to know where you got your data. And I teach my kids that when they come home, they're like, well, teacher said this. Okay, show me. Show me. I don't care what your teacher said. Show me. And I make them research it and look it up. I wish we could get better at that. I think that would improve everything.
I definitely wish we could get better at that. And without going into the problems of our educational system, I think that critical thinking is not even taught until the college level, and maybe even the advanced college level. Because people go into college. My wife worked for a college for a long time, and I've known a lot of people that have gone to college. They go there completely unprepared because they haven't really been taught critical thinking, and it's worse now than when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we were actually taught more information. We were given more stuff. Nowadays, it's a lot about how to take a test. When I got a pilot's license, all I needed to know was how to take a test. Now I had to prove I could fly a plane. That was part two.
I
But
hope so.
to pass the written test, you literally just you could memorize it and pass it, which I thought was just nuts. It's like, this is stuff you really should know if you're going to fly a plane with a passenger in it. If you're going to fly it by yourself, whatever, go kill yourself. But getting a license is more about putting a passenger in the plane with you, because you can fly around without a license, with being a student for almost indefinitely. But if you're going to put someone with you, memorization's not it. But what I was getting at was, yeah, I completely agree that critical thinking should be taught more, and
Absolutely.
it's going out the window. And I mean, I watched a documentary called The Social Dilemma, which was kind of about AI controlling our social networks. Kind of, that's exactly what it was about. And that makes critical thinking even harder,
Hmm.
because whenever we think we're doing critical thinking, if we're doing it on the internet, we may not be. We're being fed information. So as an atheist, you're going to be fed completely information than someone who's a Christian. And someone who's a Democrat is going to be fed completely different information than someone who's a Republican. And someone who's neither is going to be fed completely, they're not going to get either side. They're going to get a whole different look at things because AI knows you so well. And so, yeah, critical thinking, I think, is a very, very important thing. And most, all of the woo-woo stuff I follow, spirit, the books on spirituality, and people who teach meditation and different things like this, they're more about critical thinking. Meditation is about clearing your head so you can think. Because if your head is always full, you can't really use it right. If you don't give it time to clear out once in a while, whether that's a walk in the woods or working
Absolutely.
out or taking a bike ride, whatever it is, if you don't give it time to get off the internet, unless you
Hmm.
listen to my podcast, but if you if you don't give it time to clear, it's very hard to have it seems to me it's getting more and more difficult to have critical thinking, and really appreciate shows like yours that are looking for that's their goal, is to find that.
Yeah, and one thing I love about our guys, and I'm not saying that to be anecdotal, but I don't want to misrepresent anybody else. But I know for myself, and and the guys on our team, and I try to encourage anybody and everybody to do this, and this falls in line of the critical thinking process. But I try to read, for any, or I'm sorry, for every atheist or skeptical book or document or paper that I read, I try to then read something that comes from the opposing side, because I want to make sure I'm giving a fair and balanced shot. Because we always say we're in pursuit of truth. If there is a God and it exists, we want to know that. Well, how am I ever going to find it if the only thing I'm ever reading about is why I'm a skeptic, and why
Right, right.
why I'm an atheist? So you can say, well, you probably can't see the titles, but these are just a small handful of the books I have, and almost all these behind me, but I think three maybe are all Christian books. Those are all that I've
Hmm.
read multiple times, or there's biblical dictionaries that if I forget what a word meant in the Hebrew, or in the Greek, I can go, and go and find that. So it's important, if we're going to talk about that, that we also do it. And that's why my kids know that about me. It's like, I'm not telling you to do it just to do it. I do it, and it works. It helps me, and I find more true things than not, by doing that. So if I could, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure. Oh yeah, you can ask me anything. This is it's supposed to be a conversation. I don't.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to make sure you didn't have anything right after that. So
Oh.
you use the word woo, but obviously you've shared a couple times that you do have a spiritual belief or system in
Mhm.
place. What label or kind, I guess, would you fall under?
Well, it's that God is all things. God is all
Okay.
things all the time. So the air we breathe, the planet we're on, the plants, the animals, you and I, all the cells going through us is has intelligence to it. It's a part of God, which is bigger than which is not a religious God. It's not something you pray to, necessarily. You can pray in a sense, but it's yeah. So I believe that, I mean, that's it, the best explanation I have, that God is all things. And that was kind of that leads me into the next question. How do you prove what about anything about religion when it's not based on fact? Like, it's interesting because there's and I'm a skeptic too. So I read a lot of watch internet stuff. A lot of people who are metaphysical. They claim they're metaphysical type. So that's kind of a new religion. It's like the New Age stuff, New Age religion, and they're claiming that what am I trying to say? There's a science that proves out all of their stuff. And that, if you look deep enough, the way that atoms work and that cells have intelligence and all this stuff, and that proves it out. And when I listen to them, but I'm like, well, there's no links to any like actual papers on your site here. You're just talking about experiments you've done in your own, seminars and stuff that proves this out. Now there is proof. Recently, there is more and more proof that meditation can make a huge difference in a brain. Like they've taken MRIs of people when they meditate, and they're surprisingly similar to people when they play drums. Have you ever seen those?
I actually know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's MRIs of people playing music lights up the brain. MRIs of people playing drums really lights up the brain. Like explodes all the receptors in there. And the same thing with meditation kind of does the opposite. It really it calms it, but there's way more firing going on when people are in deep meditation than just about anything else, So, that's why drumming and playing music and singing and riding a bike is also meditation in my mind. So, yeah.
And as an atheist, I 100% support and endorse meditation, not prayer. Meditation, the centering yourself, the clearing of your brain, breathing, that's all physical, psychological, even neurological. Like that affects so many parts of your body. It's not just your brain, So anything that's natural, like that we're doing to improve ourselves, do it. By all means, do it. It's when we start praying to a deity that I have issues with, But you're not. Now we're really starting to talk my language because I love psychology, and I love what experiences and certain actions or sounds or feelings do to brain activity. And I love that you brought that up because, again, the conversation I was having yesterday with someone, I told him, I said, you realize that, and there's studies on it. You can simple Google, just go Google and search it. There's simple research, research is done and experiments done on the human brain while having a religious experience. It does two things to the brain. One, it triggers the same reward center in your brain that sex, drugs, alcohol, and all those things do. It triggers the same reward center. So people talk about, well, I had this feeling and I got goosebumps and I did this. Well, yeah, like I'm a huge Post Malone fan, and before COVID hit, my now wife and I went to two or three of his concerts, and I remember having goosebumps. I mean, it was just electric in there, and I was like, man, I remember when I used to think that was God.
Right.
Post Malone must be God.
And in my mind, it is. That is God.
Yeah, for you.
That feeling is. It's not a religion, but that's God. It's that. Well, at least that's a part of God. Yeah, I think everything's God. So
yeah, which
people have a hard time with that too.
Yeah, wait, it's funny. I'm gonna come back and ask you another question here in a minute on that.
Sure.
So for the brain, it does that. So you get that euphoric feeling. From those experiences. And I can't, because I'm not a neurologist, but there's a part in the back of your brain that controls your logic and your reason and your ability to think critically. When you're having, and again, and I can send it to you if your listeners want. I have they're saved on my desktop. This is how much I use this information. There's a part in the back of the brain that controls all that. It shrinks. Think about that.
That's interesting.
So,
yeah.
So not insulting anybody, but you're getting dumber. Now it does expand back once you exit that experience. So it's not like you stay dumb, but for that moment, you actually become less intelligent, less critical, less logical during that experience. If that doesn't, you think about it now, take a 30,000 foot view and look at the religious experience. If that doesn't tell you a story about how it controls and manipulates, it gets you high, and then it takes away your capacity to think critically. Like that's how you control somebody.
Well, that's true. That's definitely how religion controls people. There's another side of that when you're having an experience, like when you're in deep meditation, it's probably the same thing. Your logic mind, the whole idea of a lot of meditations that I've done is to stop thinking critically, and to try to stop thinking. Now, people who have done meditation for a long time will tell you you're never going to stop thinking, which is one of the best things I ever heard about meditation. I was so relieved when someone finally said, "You'll never stop thinking. Don't try and do that. Just observe your thoughts and let them go." So if anyone's new to meditation, you're never going to stop thinking. Let that go.
Absolutely.
But when you slow down critical thinking as much as you possibly can, that's where a lot of art comes from. That's where a lot of ideas come from. Unfortunately, I haven't really asked him, but geniuses like Elon Musk, he gets ideas out of nowhere, out of literally nowhere. It's not really from critical thinking. He obviously does a lot of critical thinking because his mind is ridiculously sharp, and everything he does is based on science, and so his mind is full of critical thoughts. But he also has a place where he grabs thoughts out of the air, which is just amazing to me. Like there's musicians do this, even scientists do this. Einstein did this. He came up with an idea that no one believed, and then he had to prove it. His idea that now they've disproven, but okay.
And science.
Yeah, that's stupid science. But a lot of scientists talk about this. They come up with ideas really out of the blue, and they're pretty sure they're right, but they take years and years and years and years of critical thinking to try and prove them. I don't know. It's an interesting, but yes, I can see how that can be used to control people. I mean, that's how it's being used now with politics, and it always has been. I mean, that's how Hitler came to power. Because
Absolutely.
he would basically hypnotize a massive nation. When you see him speak, you're like, okay, I get that. I can see what he's doing there. He is so dynamic, and people just fell for it, and they were in a really, really, really bad way. The country was in bad shape at that time. So, yeah. I see what there's kind of two sides to that. It's like
and with the like I said, the meditation, absolutely slow everything. That's I'm all for it there. But when I said a religious experience, I'm thinking like in like a church service. The music's going and where the Holy Ghost is here, and and all that. Yes, they want all of that to subside. They don't want you to think critically. They just want you to buy into drink the Kool-Aid. Drink the Jesus juice and get retarded on Jesus juice.
Right. Sure.
But meditation, I'm all for it. Like, yes, especially for me, my ADHD brain. Believe me, if I could have a day where I could just hit a pause button, oh my, that would be a glorious day in Austin's life. But so even when I do my versions of meditation, just slowing everything down, I'm still, if I'm going 200 miles an hour, I'm still going 100 miles an hour. My brain and thoughts and activity, all that. But even going from 200 to 100 miles an hour is a break.
And that's really, I really appreciate you saying that, and people need to hear that more, I think, because I believe I think we all have experienced some type of mental breakdown in the last several months. And meditation is just extremely helpful, especially in extreme cases. I think it's extremely helpful. This is a total side note, but in Oregon, they're trying to legalize psilocybin mushrooms for experimenting with
I heard that. I
medical
heard that.
science. Yeah, and it sounds like, to me, that sounds like it could be a really good thing. Could be a huge breakthrough. They've been studying this for over 30 years, using all kinds of hallucinogens, including mushrooms, in very small doses to do really to replace other types of brain altering drugs. And I guess they do a much better job. And they have way less side effects. So I'm hoping that goes through. I'm hoping that passes. It could open the door for, because right now you can't research it because it's a
Yeah.
class 1 or whatever the stupid, so you can't research whether that's going to actually help people or not. And that's absolutely bonkers. It's the same with a lot of
America.
yeah. It's just it's nuts. Anyway, that's a completely off the subject.
But no, do the meditation. Just don't pray to that crazy God. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, there you go. And I totally understand that. Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. There are people who pray to, prayer's been proven to actually help people too. But yeah, it's when you try. To me, it's more about. I mean, I'm not against religion for people that's doing them some kind of good. But I am skeptical, extremely skeptical of people trying to tell me what religion I should be. What I should be doing. That's where I really have a problem with it, and that's where it gets. Yeah, that's where it gets strange.
And that's even one of the things. Tying it back to our show, I tell we remind ourselves, but the guys all the time. Respect the human, respect the individual, but the faith, the belief is open. It's hunting season. So get after it, because the belief, if it's to be held as their truth, we can investigate the shit out of it. And I tell Christians that all the time. I don't care what you believe in, and we can have a conversation about it. But I will not allow you to shove it down my throat. And I will not allow you to tell me that my family or myself, especially my kids, don't dare say it to my kids, but that we're going to go and suffer and burn and gnash our teeth for all eternity in hell because we don't believe what you believe in. Like, you can tell me anything else. I don't want to hear all that bullshit. Like, keep that to yourself. If that's what you want to tell your kids to scare your kids, cool. But don't tell my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish that was, I wish there was a way that people would hear that. I know people who are extremely religious and think that that's what they have to do. That's a very sad thing, especially for kids, to ever have to hear that from anybody. Because right. Obviously you were 21 before you said, well, this is all bullshit. And first you had to try and drink your way out of it and snort your way out of it. And, that doesn't work either. A lot of people do that. That's not obvious. You must know this. That's how a lot of people react when, things don't seem right. It's something a lot of people turn to. So I'm really thankful that you were able to come around to just reasoning and getting help too, because it sounds like you got. Well, one thing I wanted to say, this was a long time ago, but the fact that when you were put in a hospital, you said a mental hospital, right?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that worked is so awesome. I mean, that is because I know a lot of people who've gone through that. I guess not a lot, a handful. And they were not given the best of care. The place that they went was not the best. It was overcrowded. It was really a matter of give them enough medication so they don't bother us because there's too many people here. And so it's great. It's really heartening to hear a story of someone who got help, who actually got good help from good professionals. So yeah, that's really nice to hear. And I think I think you got lucky. It's great.
If I can be honest, and I think people say this all the time. And my dad always raised me, you get out of life what you put into it, and you take, you can work hard and make the best out of any situation. It's not only is going to get you what you want, but you can make the best out of it and get, find a silver lining. I'll tell you right now, I got out what I took out of it. Because once I realized that I had people there that could help me, and don't get me wrong, there was two the doctors there that were awesome. But as far as the facility, the nurses, the environment, the people that they placed me around was it was bad. It was bad. And uh, one of the, I would say, more traumatic experiences of my adulthood, anyway, is when I went in. You would have thought I had just got done like killing a school bus of kids or something. When I went in, they took me into a room, about 5 or 6 other grown adults, stripped me down, butt ass naked, strip searched me. You literally would have thought I was a killer and a felon, and it was humiliating,
Yeah.
And so my first 24 hours, I did not want to be there. Like, I was ready to go, fuck this place and everybody here. But then once I kind of got my thoughts together, I was like, you know what, this, either I'm going to get the help that I need right now and why I'm here and take advantage of this, or I don't know if I'll get this moment again. I don't know if I'll ever get this opportunity again, because I might die, so I took advantage of it, and I took advantage that I did have two doctors. But as far as the facility and everything, I agree with your your sphere of influence and their experience. Other than those 2 doctors, it is not a friendly the mental health process, I guess, or treatment. It's not pretty. It's not easy. And even the follow up after that, it was so hard to get somebody just to call me back. And I'm like, I'm calling you. Like, I was just in here, like, 2-3 months ago,
Hmm.
uh, basically trying to kill myself. And now I can't get anybody to follow me up. Like, what if I had a gun in my hand right now? Like, nobody's going to call me back. Nobody's going to follow, So it is, you have to want it, and that's tough, man. When you're fighting and you get in those dark places, you don't want to reach out to anybody. So
Right.
when you do and nobody calls you back, it just makes it even stickier. But sorry, I went on a tangent there, but I'm passionate about that. We actually have a show tonight about that, the stigma behind it and why people are so just kind of, oh, just get over it, toughen up, whatever. What do you tell somebody with diabetes to have less diabetes? Like, chill, dude.
Well, Joe Rogan would. That's his
Right.
philosophy.
He probably would. Yeah, he probably would.
He kind of does.
Yeah.
You're fat, stop eating.
Yep.
Well, I'm really glad that you had you did. I mean, that takes mental strength. You recognize that you needed help, and you were able to reach out for it, and that's really awesome that worked out, and that you're continuing to let other people know that there is help out there. And I mean, help is hard to get for a hangnail. I mean, it's any part of the medical world right now is really hard to deal with. I'm extremely familiar with that. I've gone through all kinds of weird undiagnosed problems where I had to go to doctor after doctor, and mental health is tougher because not only do you have to go through a lot of doctors and find the right person and find, if you're going to be on medication, find the right medication. If you're going to somehow do it some other way, you've got to find the right way, or you will not,
Mhm.
or it'll come back. It will not go away. There's putting a Band-Aid on it doesn't work. And it sounds like you have found good solutions. So it's really good to hear that. But it does take, like you're saying, I mean, when you're in the middle of it, my God, it's very hard to reach out. So let's hope that more and more people are able to get help. I know right now the mental health actually worldwide, for some reason, I don't know what's happened in the last 7 months, but it's gotten really bad. People, the rate of depression and suicide and this has skyrocketed. It's probably an equal line to the pandemic that we're trying to fight. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's even, people are offering a lot of help, but I know it's hard to reach out, right? It's hard.
And it's well, one, we're a social species, right? And we've had the last 6-7 months, whatever, where we've been separated from a lot of people we love, care about, that kind of thing. So that will, especially if you already have pre-existing diagnosis, that's just going to trigger them. But I even know people that have never struggled with depression or anything in their life and have been battling it, through this period. And if I can, and this is not I mean, it's our website, but it's not a plug for our website. If you're somebody that for this, they're not professionals, but we have people on hand that if you just need to talk shit, vent, you're having a bad day, and you just want to tell somebody how shitty your day is, if you go to tart.live, so TART.live, there's a little chat bubble down at the bottom of our website. hit that, and you can text somebody. That's how you go to a phone number, and we always have somebody that's there just to listen. They're not professionals, so we're not going to diagnose or anything like that, but we're just there to listen. So you have somebody to talk to, and it can even be anonymous. If you're actually seeking professional help and you want that, I've developed a relationship with a secular therapist that will meet remotely, so you can do it, FaceTime or whatever. You can do that, and she's going to do it at a discounted rate for us through our channel. So even if you don't have insurance, she's going to drop her rates down so that make it affordable. So we have professional help, and we have people just to give you an ear, to have somebody to listen to you if you need that. So there's that for anybody that may need that.
That's awesome. No, I appreciate that. Of course, you can promote your website on the show. That's why you're on the show. That's why you're on a podcast, right? That's why you went on podcastguest.com. It's
absolutely.
That's all.
Well, I didn't want it to be in the middle of a mental health conversation. I want it to be like, here, I'm plugging my website.
I see what you mean.
No, yeah.
It's very important, and it's awesome that you're doing that on your site. That's really good. And let's just segue right into, how do people find these terrestrial alien rehabilitation therapy people, or TART?
I have to go back and re-listen to this, write all that down, and open up an episode and try to sell it. No, so the easiest way is tart.live. That's our website, and on there it's going to have our link tree, link to our YouTube, our wow, I just went brain dead. I'll come back to that one, but Instagram, okay. All that, Patreon. That's what I was trying to remember. Patreon's on there. All and everything you need to know about TART's on there, and our clothing and merchandise stores on there. We're getting ready to load our new winter hoodies and beanies and all that on here probably next week, 2 weeks. We'll do that, and I think that's it. But YouTube, we have a show tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jenna Belk, she's the co-host of the Atheist Experience with Matt Dillahunty from ACA. She'll be on with us, and then Ethan from Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist will be on. We're talking about mental health and the stigma that's behind it, and why in 2020 we still have that stigma. And then tomorrow, I'm very, very excited. If you or your listeners are familiar with Mr. Seth Andrews, he is one of the major voices in the atheist community. He's a former Christian of 30-something years, was a DJ, a radio DJ for 10 plus years. He'll be on with us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and he just released a book. It's Confessions of a Former Fox News Christian, and I'm almost all the way through it. Incredible book, but we're really excited to have him on there, and he's kind of my inspiration. There's a lot of things that he grew up with and around that I grew up with and around, and when I read his second book, Deconverted, that it changed my life, and I can't say that about a lot of books that I've read, but that one changed my life. So check us out.
That is awesome. And this show is not live, so those shows will be by the time you get this podcast, they will be taped. But if you want to send me a link, I could actually put it on my Facebook so that people have those okay. out there. And also, I was watching your podcast and I was wondering where all the comments are coming from, because I don't see them on YouTube. Where are they commenting? Do you have a Discord server, or is that all on Instagram? Where are they getting the comments from? I think it was Murder Shed that was reading a bunch of comments, and I didn't see where they were coming from.
So if you go to it's usually 24, 48 hours after we go live when it posts as now a uploaded video. The live chat you should be able to hit the live chat and go through, it goes through on the timestamps, but they all pop in on the live chat.
Oh, okay, that's it. Because I always turn the live chat off because it annoys the hell out of me. But now I get it. So yeah. It's all up there.
You said that, and that's one of them. I forgot. Our Discord. It's called Let's Talk Religion. Mm-hmm. So we do have that Discord, and that links on the website as well. And that's again another area where, like you said, you go and watch our show and you see it's just a very civil discourse, and we'll push back. If somebody's just spewing nonsense, we're going to push back. But the nice thing about the Discord is we have people from your basic Christian belief to where we have a couple people on there that claim to be the second coming of the Messiah. the eighth carnation of Buddha. Like they actually believe that they are these things. We have some of the craziest shit you ever heard. So, but it's all very respectful, and we have a blast on there.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And with that, I think we are going to wrap it up because I've kept you a long time. And I really appreciate this conversation. It's been awesome. You're a super easy person to talk to. This is the kind of podcast I like when I don't have to say much. And better to listen to other people's stories than listening to me. So, yeah, really appreciate you coming on. So, this has been, were you still talking? And today on my show, I have had Austin Mills from TART, the Terrestrial Alien, no, it's actually the Atheist Roundtable. Boy, that is a little bit of a tongue twister. You can find them on YouTube, and they also have a website, which is, I don't have it on my cheat sheet, but we've said it a couple times, and it'll be in the show notes. Check out their website. They have a whole tree of links there. Anything you need to find out that we've been talking about, there's also some other links in the show notes. And I really appreciate you listening, so be sure and share with your friends. That's the way I'm getting the show out now, as my budget is a little bit low, but that's going to change. I'm sure that will change one day, and you might be listening to this a year from when we did it. And if this is 2021, how y'all doing? Hope you're well. And for now, be good to each other, and especially be good to yourselves. And there we go. That is it. Stop recording. Yep.